Hey y'all, and welcome back to this week's live cast. You know what? Welcome back to America, for that matter. Welcome back to sensibility, welcome back to democracy, and welcome back from our 4-year trip returning from the political mentality of 1985. That is right. As of right now, sensibility, logic, reason, and the embracing of science has returned to the highest seat in our nation. Something to celebrate, right? President Biden and Vice President Harris, damn, does that title and does her name sound good to say out loud? They had a wonderful inaugural ceremony that was met with zero violence from right-wing extremists due to social media corporations finally banning the platforms of extremists, conspiracy theorists, and agitators, which might I also add that it's about damn time, y'all. QAnon cultists around the world wept as their hopes and ambitions for Trump declaring martial law and seizing the presidency by force came to a screeching halt, and hundreds of sweeping arrests are being conducted as we speak in what could ultimately lead to thousands of convictions of domestic terrorists that participated in the events and insurrection of January 6th. And the hits just keep on coming in what has seemed like warp speed execution and laser-focused precision. The Biden administration has begun to undo the horrific legacy of both the era and error of Donald Trump. A flurry of 30-plus executive orders, more than any president in American history has signed into law during their first week of office, by the way, has come from the Biden administration, and these orders have officially reversed the Keystone Pipeline. They ended the racist Muslim ban from the Trump administration, prohibited discrimination in the workforce. It expanded access to both legal immigration and to DACA recipients. It requires masks at federal locations, and while people are taking public transit, it strengthened access to medical supplies and PPP to combat COVID-19. It massively increased vaccine production and bolstered vaccine distribution. It doubled the size of American stimulus checks. We rejoined the WHO with another executive order, and simultaneously we rejoined and re-signed the Paris Climate Accords. And by the end of the month, the Biden and Harris administration has plans to announce their policies to snuff out white supremacist extremists and all of their leaders. They also announced plans to prosecute Trump and all politicians involved with the insurrection that occurred on January 6th. And there is also legislation to overturn Citizens United on the House floor. And last but certainly not least, the Biden administration plans to reunite families at the border and cease the conditions and the horrific imprisonment actions for refugees in this country. Y'all, that's just the first 3 days in office. If you are just ecstatic and elated about this, smash that like button right now, y'all. I mean, yeah, it's worth celebrating. The sense of relief that I feel in this moment is unparalleled, and I'm sure that pales in comparison to many Americans on the margins. But in less than a week's time, my morning routine went from, oh my God, the news, to, oh God, the news. In fact, if I didn't watch the news the entire week, which I watched every day, but hypothetically, if I did not, I would not have missed a single political atrocity. And how long has it been since we've been able to say that? I mean, wasn't it nice this week to not be on red alert every second of every day? I mean, this week for me was like a pretty big chunk of my leftist heart's wish list. So much so that Marco Rubio took to Twitter and proclaimed his concern about the future of American democracy. Yo, when Marco Rubio questions the road America is currently traversing, then we know we're on the right path. Y'all, after 4 years of vile and hateful rhetoric and blatant stupidity, I feel like we leftists just came out the other side of an epic battle like Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings. And I didn't realize just how much trauma that this past administration had caused for me personally until Trump left the White House, until his term had finally ended. I mean, we have been conditioned since Trump was inaugurated to being petrified by updates on a daily, if not hourly basis, depending on the week. Stephen Colbert said it best this week when he brought up that it's customary for Americans to look at photos that show just how much a president aged during their term in office. But this time, Stephen Colbert challenged America to look at photos of themselves. Y'all, I did that, and I gotta tell you, I have aged in dog years for the past 4 years. Every day that tyrant was in office aged me exponentially. And as you can see, clearly, I'm a person of privilege. I can't even begin to comprehend what many of the folks on the margins were going through on a daily basis, if not an hourly basis. I mean, y'all, there's just this deep sense of gratitude and relief. And that aside, I do want to mention that America has much work that still needs to be done, even with Biden and Harris in office. And I say that because it would be easy for we people of privilege, like myself, on the left to go to sleep on the cause of justice now that we have an administration that will benefit us and our ambitions. But we made that mistake in the Obama administration, and look where that got us. Or more precisely, look who that got us. However, even though our long-term goals for justice remain to be seen in many outlets of American governance, let us not abandon opportunities to recenter ourselves and renew our strength. And I know that's hard for some of us, because some of us are in this fight and we want to see things through. And for those among us that are fighters, that are barbarians in the realm of social justice, that wear the mocking label of social justice warrior like badges of honor, for us, I understand that it's difficult at times to disengage from political and ideological discourse, debates, and campaigns. But in refusing to practice periodic actions of self-care, we neglectfully harm ourselves and unintentionally hinder the future of the movement because we risk burning ourselves out, y'all. Fellow far leftists, I know we have not won the war against systemic injustice. I'm not that naive. But a major victory has just occurred. That's undeniable. And we cannot go to sleep on justice, but perhaps maybe a 3-day weekend or at least a 15-minute power nap is in order for some of us. I mean, as it stands, Biden, though he speaks as a centrist, and that is without debate, he is operating from left of center. In fact, I dare say that for the first time in years, I'm seeing a political leader act like a good liberal. And this is a surprise, and I don't want to give Biden too much credit for that shift, although Biden, I do appreciate it. I got to give credit for this transformation to activists that pushed agendas that moved the party further left. Y'all, this is a moment for us to see the fruits of our labor right now. And these pieces of legislation that are coming from the Biden administration, they're milestones that need to be recognized. And friends, we cannot let the trauma of the past administration rob us of small victories in the present. Enjoy these moments because they're rare in the realm of activism, and we must recognize them when they occur. This is to be acknowledged, so breathe it in. Our hard work paid off. We have to remember, though it's hard, that conflicts are won moment to moment, not in a single political skirmish. The truth is, y'all, that the cause will suffer if you aren't present to see it through to the end. If passionate people like you aren't there to see this vision of a just and equitable future come to fruition. So take a moment, however brief, for self-care. Now, with that said, I do want to acknowledge that there is, or at least can be perceived to be, a great deal of privilege in that statement. But there has to be something that you all have access to that you enjoy, even if it's just taking a single night off. Maybe you make an easy dinner. Maybe you sleep in one day a little bit longer than you typically would. Or maybe you engage in a hobby that you do to decompress. Like maybe you curl up with a good book, or maybe you go fishing one day. I mean, for me, it's cooking, it's reading, or it's having a tobacco pipe out on my porch at sunset. However it is that you choose to unwind, that you need to unwind, do so this week, and do so without the threat of a dictatorship looming over your head for the first time in 4 years. Look, y'all, this is my point. And you know I got to bring up a nerd reference of some kind. Nerddom is my thing. In every great literary epic, within those stories, there are proportionately epic battles and conflicts. And after each skirmish, whether it was Helm's Deep, or the Battle of the Five Armies, or the Battle of Endor, or the Siege of the Death Star, or the Battle for Hogwarts, some of the most memorable scenes and the most impacting moments in these narratives are those that are depicted regarding the characters grieving and or celebrating right after they had a victory. And after 4 years of tyranny, I think we all just need to take a moment to shed the trauma of what we experienced the entirety of the previous administration. And I think we need to do so before we gather ourselves and our strength and our courage to move on to the next conflict. Because the war against injustice, and it's hard to say this out loud, it's far from over. And biblically speaking, there are plenty of examples of this kind of encouragement to rest throughout the text. There are plenty of biblical examples of respite. In the metaphorical creation poem of Genesis, from a narrative perspective, even God took a day to chill after a major accomplishment. I mean, the divine fashioned the universe for 6 days and nights. And even this hypothetical omnipotent deity needed a breather. In the Gospels, after gathering massive crowds to the cause of the gospel, even Jesus retreated away from the masses to be in isolation in order to decompress and relax. Whether Jesus was the physical, real Son of God or not, that can be debated among all of us. But even if Jesus was simply a radical activist that tried to take down a corrupt empire, I would guarantee you, if I had $1 million and you had $1, I would put my million to your one that Jesus needed a break now and again. Look, if there's any young millennials and Gen Z folks watching this, look, try playing any video game without replenishing your character's health or resting your character, and see how far you get in that story. I mean, Skyrim and Zelda, even Mario, all of these games taught us this truth in video games. You got to rest your character. And these epic digital stories literally built in mechanisms for both rest and renewal. And if you're listening to my message today, your journey, your story, it's far from over. So remember to rest. Don't get me wrong, white supremacy still needs to be dismantled. A coming climate crisis still needs to be averted. Extremists are still spreading their hateful manifestos and their rhetoric, and the pillars of toxic Christendom have yet to be dismantled. But if we're going to conquer each of those foes, then we need our bravest social justice warriors to be at their best. So take the opportunity to nourish yourselves and lavish in victories when they present themselves, because they don't occur often enough. Even if it's for a moment, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we fight. On the night Jesus was betrayed, they took bread and broke it. And they said, "This is my body, broken for you. Take and eat, and as often as you do, do so in remembrance of me." Likewise, they poured out some wine, and they said, "This is my blood, the blood of a new promise. Take and drink, and as often as you do, do so in remembrance of me." As we drink from this cup of blessing, and as we eat from the grain, and as we take this bread, let us be reminded of the poetic words of the great sage Amanda Gorman. Because unlike this broken bread, America is not broken. It's simply unfinished. So soak in this moment of triumph today and ready yourselves to finish the work tomorrow. Love y'all. Grace and peace. And now, may the revolution of Jesus go with you wherever it may send you. May it guide you in healing this wasteland and protect you through the storm. May it lead you through this world seeking the justice it demands for you and for others. And may it bring you home preparing to continue love's mission beyond your doors. Grace and justice to you.